Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Umlauf, and I'm the Executive Director for the St. Louis Art Fair presented by Centene Charitable Foundation. We are so excited to be able to bring you the Artist Roundtable produced by HEC TV because this is our first ever virtual St. Louis Art Fair, and we are happy to bring the art fair experience to all of you. And a big part of that experience, of course, is our artists. And we are just so excited to introduce you to 6 of our participating virtual artists this year and enjoy this conversation with them all in our Artist Roundtable. So if we would like to go ahead and hear everybody introduce themselves, I think that would be a great way to start.
I'm Melissa Schmidt, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I live in Maplewood, and I make glass bubble jewelry.
I'm Sam Stang. I'm from Augusta, Missouri, and I'm a glass artist.
And I know the St. Louis Art Fair always attracts artists from across the country, across the nation. So if we can hear from some of our artists who are joining us remotely via Zoom, that would be great. Will, would you like to start, please?
Sure. I'm Will Armstrong. I'm from Richmond, Virginia originally, and staying in Minnesota for the summer and moving to New Mexico in another couple weeks. And it's mixed media.
Great. And Jay, would you mind going next?
I'm Jay McDougall. I'm from Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and I'm a contemporary wood sculptor.
And Ella, I know you are here. Ella, would you mind introducing yourself?
Ella Richards from New York City, and I do scissors drawings.
And last but not least, Clifton.
My name is Clifton Henry, and I'm a photographer, and I am out of Chicago, Illinois.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited you all can be joining me today for this wonderful discussion we're going to have. What I was hoping to do really is to hear from you. I'd love to hear from all of you. So please go ahead and have a great open discussion today. To start this first topic of conversation is what it has been like for you all, since many of you do participate in festivals across the country. What it has been like since you formed all of these relationships, these bonds with your fellow artists. What's it been like not to see each other during this time?
I could sense a collective sigh from the group when you were talking about that because it's very emotional. I mean, not only the audience that we try to sell to, but our community is, there's a huge hole for me.
It ends up being your family away from home in a sense. And, over the years, these other artists end up becoming your people. And now all of a sudden, you can't see your people. So it's a tough adjustment, but, through Zoom and, the folks you end up being really close to, you still end up calling and FaceTiming and, crossing paths and things like that. But it's definitely not the same, not remotely.
I would say that I have been involved with the St. Louis Art Fair for over 12 years. Before I was executive director, I was an artist relations team member. So I was a volunteer. And as my job as a volunteer, I worked with artists and I tried to take care of all of our artists and make sure that you had everything you needed. But I was always struck to see that camaraderie, to see you guys sneak away to each other's booths during the fair just to catch up, see how each other's doing. And I think what I loved the most was going to the hotel afterwards at the end of the night and just seeing that the hotel bar, the hotel lobby, it was just full of artists catching up with one another and relaxing and seeing what each other had done throughout that day, throughout that weekend. So I really miss seeing that too and seeing all of you with each other. It's been tough.
Yeah, I miss the dinners, at the end of the day, and going to dinner with like 5 people and just having such a great time. That's almost as much fun as the show in itself every night. I miss that a lot.
I didn't realize how much of the family those people are for me, because when we do the shows, we always have this moment, oh, if I didn't see somebody tonight or during this show, I'm going to see next time, next week, next month.
Right.
So it was always kind of in the back of my head, if I didn't say hello, I'm going to have another chance. And suddenly I don't have any chances to say hello to these people. I don't have any chances to hug them, to ask them questions, just very simple questions. And suddenly there's an emptiness because you feel like, oh, those are my people. And I took them for, I kind of like took them for granted that I'm going to see them all the time. And suddenly, like, I don't see them. Because, I mean, you can do the Zoom call, but it's not the same when touching somebody's hand, giving a hug, hearing, like, how are you, and talking. So there's a bit of emptiness in my life right now. And I feel like, I know it's not going to be forever. I know it's going to be over. But I just realized those are my people, my family. And it's hard for me not seeing you in life. It's hard for me. I feel lonely without you. And sometimes I even cry because I miss you so much. And I think it's normal. It's good. It's a good cry. It's not like a terrible cry because it means like you're so much part of my life that I cannot function without you. Sometimes we get along, sometimes we don't, but it's part of being a family, which is okay. Sometimes we kind of get cranky with each other, which is okay. But usually we love each other, we care about each other, we do anything for each other. And right now I feel like you're not here. I cannot touch you. I can see your faces, but I want to sit next to you. I want to talk to you. I want to hear your voices. And it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And I hope it's going to be over soon. And I hope we're going to see each other again and have a laugh, have a cry, have a disagreement. Why not? Yeah. So I think like, I mean, you never realize it till actually it happens, because when we do shows, we always say, oh, I'm going to see somebody in a week. And suddenly this week goes into a month, and then it goes into 6 months, it goes into a year, and it's difficult.
Well, sure. I'm sure it is. And I know that you are all very physical people, because I do see you hugging and embracing one another at these shows. I love seeing Ella standing next to Clifton and seeing the difference. And you look more like his little sister standing next to him.
His brother. Would you like to be my brother?
Absolutely. Definitely my sister, no doubt, no doubt.
You made my day. I'm gonna cry right now. Will, would you be my brother?
Absolutely.
Jay, how about you?
I am your brother, Ella.
Same way.
Oh, that's really.
The thing that I think is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is because we do travel coast to coast all over the country, and these people, they're my anchors. I can go to a community I've never been in before, but I'm going to have a friendly face and somebody who has been there and can show me the ropes, and it's just a lot less daunting than it would be otherwise. And that's comforting, and I really miss that.
It is. One of the things that I love about doing this is that we are never really sure who you're going to see one weekend to the next, or, you know, I probably do 10 or 12 shows a year, kind of pared it down, but I might be lucky to be set up next to Jay or set up next to Ella, Sam.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, you never really know where you're going to see some of your best friends, your people, your chosen family. And it's always a pleasure to kind of unzip your tent in the morning and look next door to see who it's going to be. It's I just really miss everybody. I feel like it took me a long time, maybe a couple of months, to not get that feeling where I'm like, oh shit, where am I supposed to be this weekend? And I'm just not supposed to be anywhere. I'm just supposed to be right here.
Yeah. I would say that I agree with everything everyone said, but there's also relationships I've formed with some of my customers that I've become very close friends with, and stayed at their houses in various cities, and really miss seeing those people, and especially miss seeing all the artists. But I think, though, that when you're next to someone you really like, have an artist next to you who you really connect with, it's just so basic, and it's so easy to form a deep friendship over just the course of a weekend, and those friendships usually endure. So you'll see them several years, you know, from when you first met, and you can just pick it right back up. So that's the great part for me.
That's wonderful to hear. And I know that Sam touched on something that I was hoping to hear from all of you, that during these times that we've been living in, we've had to be creative. Clifton alluded to trying to communicate with fellow artists and friends via Zoom or via, using social media. How have you been connecting with your buyers, with your customers during this time? Because I'm sure they're missing you too. We will have the virtual St. Louis Art Fair, but I want to know what you guys are doing outside of some of these virtual shows.
My main it's just my website basically, and I guess Instagram. Most of those are my two main ways. And I used to do 16 shows, so I was going to have an amazing list this year. It was going to be a great year. And so now it's just basically my online sites, and when those customers do contact me, and I'm always thankful, but even more thankful. Like, I don't know if they understand how thankful I am now that I don't have shows, but when they do, get in contact with me or something like that, then, that's the main way, basically. I have had a website since '97, so, for me, that's my main way that I'm contacting them.
Sure. I'm sure they miss speaking with you, because I would say visiting your booth during Art Fair weekend, it's tough to get to talk to you because you're having such wonderful conversations with your customers.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they must be missing that too.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I've heard from a lot of them, so I'm looking forward to the St. Louis Virtual Art Fair, hoping that I can connect with some of them. That would be great.
Oh, wonderful. Anyone else here? Anyone else connecting with buyers and trying to find new ways to connect with your customers?
I've found that the hardest thing for me is that in order to sell my work, I feel like I need to make a personal connection, and I can just put the piece up there and people can see it, but without that face-to-face, I don't get to tell the story that goes along with it. They can have their emotional connection, but they have to reach back out to me. So I'm having to relearn or learn a completely different way to sell my work. And it's worked out okay. It's worked out fine for the summer. I've reached out to some clients and they've reached out to me, and it's a much slower play than it is at an arts festival. At an arts festival, it's like you show up into a town and it's almost like the last weekend at the mall before Christmas. There's this urgency and people are like, these guys are only here this weekend. This is the only weekend. Whereas with the website, with Instagram, with Facebook, it's a slow play. It's more like you're a gallery that's open all the time. People kind of come in, they kick your tires, they disappear for a couple weeks, then you kind of reach back out. So it's a much different energy than a festival. So I'm having to relearn that, but it's coming along. It's working.
I almost look at it as like when we do these festivals, we go fishing in this big lake.
That's
right?
well stocked.
Starved,
Yeah. That's true.
and then, now we're reduced to, we got to go to the pond, the little water hole in the back. And although there's fish in there, you have to fish out of your own pond basically at this point. The clients that you currently have and people who are already engaging with you, which is cool. It's a different play. It's a part of the business that I don't think I necessarily gave as much attention to prior. So in a sense, it's helping me
Right.
strengthen my business chops in a way.
Because we didn't have
So
time before, really. I mean, who had time to do anything but jump to the next show, really? I mean, I would run home and make as much as I could possibly make, and then I would, go to the next show. So you really didn't have enough time to really cultivate other ways of selling your work when 99% of my sales come from shows. So, yeah, who has time to do all of that in addition? So it's different.
There's a thing about being the new kid on the block too. You hit this city maybe you've never been to before, and for the next 2 or 3 years, if that's the exclusive show that you go to for that city, people come and seek you out, and you get used to that energy being the new kid rather than being old trusty and developing the relationships with your clients and your people. So it's a learning process. It's an adjustment that we've all are making, and if we're going to survive all of this,
Right.
then it's kind of a mandatory thing that we need to do. Start taking a little bit more personalized care and giving a little bit more personalized attention to those that are supporting us and have been supporting us, and talk to them directly rather than broadly.
One of the challenges that I've really had is not having the contact with the customers, because my work being three-dimensional and a very tactile thing, in order to fully appreciate it or make that connection, it almost has to be in the physical presence of this piece. And even though I maintain a website that's very easy to purchase my work and all of that, the only sales I have made are to people who have seen me in person and have interacted with my work. And as far as getting any new customers right now is an incredible challenge. And I think I'm just having to look at servicing the people that have already met me and seen my work.
Kind of, Jay, similar with you, because a lot of people who have never seen my work don't really understand what it is. And but I also have a take that the times are so hard right now and so difficult, and people maybe not buying, but they're still looking at our art. And I think they need our art because we have a ways of expressing like what people are worried about, what people, I mean, what are troubles. So, and I think like people are looking at the work, and I think they're gonna come back maybe later to maybe purchase our work, to buy our work, because I mean it's difficult. A lot of, like in New York, a lot of people are out of work right now. Like majority of my friends not working, and but they're looking at the art. They're still kind of supporting us as artists, not maybe buying it, but actually appreciating our work. And I think that it's also very important because those people might come back when things hopefully improve. And so, I mean, I don't do too many sales. I'm kind of like, actually, my website is not so good, and I do like Instagram posts, but a lot of people contact me and they tell me how much they appreciate my artwork actually without buying. And I think it's also part of us being artists, just keep on making art for people, kind of like keeping people like kind of like, because we have their voices. A lot of people don't know how to express what bothers them, what the trouble is. So we are actually their voices, and I think we need to keep on working, keep on making art, just to speak for those people. And I hope, hopefully, maybe they'll come back to us and buy something. Hopefully, because I'm not doing too great.
Well, kind of on that line of thought, Ella, has this time, what has been happening in the world, has it been affecting your work and the work that you're producing? Do you find that it's affecting you and your artwork?
You know, it's interesting because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I, you know, a lot of people have been reaching out to me and telling what really bothers them and how to deal with it. Because I mean, the times are really difficult right now. We know that, and a lot of people do not know which way to turn, who to believe, what to read, and I think like a lot of people would actually send me personal messages how they feel, and I kind of trying to put it right now into my art because I feel like as artists we have this power to reach out to larger groups of people, maybe by producing something which would speak to a lot of people. And I feel like it did change my way of thinking. It did change my way of presenting my art. It did change of where I work right now because I think that there are thousands and thousands of people who just simply do not know what to think, what to say, how to say, and they need us. They need us very badly because we don't need to stand like on the corner of the street and say something, but we do it through our art. It doesn't matter what kind of media you use, what kind of art you produce, but they need somebody who would express their feelings. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying right now, but I feel like as artists we have a lot of power and we can reach to a lot of people. And I'm rethinking my entire life right now. I sound very tragic, but it's true. And I finally have time to sit down and think about my artwork, think about where I came from, thinking about where I want to go, think about what kind of citizen I am, what kind of person I am. And I think it's very important for me right now to look into myself. And fortunately, I have time right now to do, because fortunately, everything is closed in New York, nothing is working here. So I have this time when I can spend hours actually being very honest with myself. And it's a very difficult thing to be honest with yourself. It's very difficult, honestly, to ask questions yourself and then answer yourself honestly. And so, yes, I mean, I have been working a lot on myself and my artwork and where I want to go. I don't know which way I'm gonna go, and looking at a lot of artists, my friends, what they do, and we have voices.
It's been really moving to see your work on Instagram and to see what you've done with photography in the streets of New York and with your scissor drawing on top. It's really, you definitely make sure people check that out. But I've really enjoyed following that and to get a sense of what New York feels like through your eyes, and there's a really nice sense of that. So.
Well, New York is a very special place because if you think about New York, the majority of people weren't born here, didn't speak English when they were born. We all come here and we're kind of like in it right now together. And on one hand, I'm missing my art fairs and art shows, and my friends on the other hand, like I had this time when I actually look at our world through New York, what's happening here. And I feel like I'm opening my eyes to many things I never noticed before. And I think it's very important. It doesn't matter how old you are and what stage of your life. I think sometimes it's good to look into yourself very deep and question your questions. And New York has been, has been having like tough times right now, like in many areas. But thank you so much, Phil, for your words, because I mean, it really means a lot to me. I put my heart and my soul into that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, let me co-sign that real quick too, Ella. Your work is elevating.
Oh, God.
Like severely, like for real. I mean, you were already cold to begin with, you know what I mean?
My God.
But even now, I see I see a little bit more sensitivity. I see a little bit more like challenging technique. It almost looks like you're trying to flex your technique now a little bit, you know? So, continue to do it. I think in a time like this, some people stress out and worry, and some people get to work. And you've been getting to work even though you might feel stressed out. So on the other side of all of this, you're gonna kill it. So I'm not worried about you at all. I'm excited.
I feel like human fears can be it's a very dangerous thing, because when people are afraid or fear something, they can go the right way, they can go the wrong way, right? And I think sometimes they need somebody just kind of like level them a little bit and tell people like, well, let's just take a look at our lives. And I think that so much has happened this year, and I think as artists, it doesn't matter what kind of form of art you produce. I think we need to reach out to people and speak to people about how they feel, what their fears are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are. And I think we're the only ones who can they can talk, I think, because we're not judging them, we're not giving any kind of therapy. And as artists, we have a lot of power. We're powerful people. We are.
Well, I know, Ella. You, some of your fellow artists are talking about your photography skills, but I want to ask the photographer in the virtual room here, Clifton. Have you been inspired? What have you been shooting lately?
That is a great question, because I've been sitting on my hands for a little when everything popped off and all the shows were being canceled. It's just kind of recalibrating. So during the pandemic, I've lost my hair. I've gotten engaged as well.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I have a door series, so that's one of the doors right there behind me. So I thought it's all about opportunity, doors of opportunity, finding them, locating them, just being able to recognize the opportunities, the doors that are right in front of you. And if all else fails, build your own door or bring your own door. So I've added to the door series. So that's what I've, kind of been working on recently. So I'm adding another 5 to 8 images to that series. So that required me traveling around the country a little bit. So it was cool to put a few miles on the van, you know, throw some doors in the back. I had one of my buddies, Marcus Ryan, he's an artist that does the circuit as well. He joined me on the trip. And I don't know, it's been cool. Just pursuing the idea of opportunity and grasping the opportunity that's in front of us, because like what was alluded to earlier is that, you know, we're working from show to show to show to show, and we kind of don't necessarily stop to breathe or live life and things like that. Now we're forced to kind of pause. And what do you do with your time when you pause, you know? Mm-hmm. So I hopped back on the road, what I was used to a little bit, and use this opportunity to create more doors of opportunity. So I've got that out my system. I'll probably add a few more and dive back into some portrait work now that, you know, folks are feeling a little bit more comfortable, you know, being around each other, you know, at least in small numbers and things like that. So it'll be good.
You know, and that's what's really been challenging for me, and I haven't been nearly as productive as I'd like to be. But the fact of the matter is, we're in such a crazy time where, you know, I'm totally out of work. My wife's out of work. My children are out of work. My mother-in-law's in a nursing home. We haven't been able to touch her or be touched by her forever. And it's just very difficult to do anything other than keep it together some days. It's a challenge. I do think, and Clifton, you touched on this a little bit, there's going to be an opportunity because what we do, there is a need for that. I mean, it may not be right at the top of Maslow's hierarchy, but you know, it's a need that has to be filled. And nature abhors a vacuum, and it's going to be filled some way. We can't continue like this. I mean, as a species, we just have this need that is going to get filled by something. I don't know what it's going to be. I'd like to think that I can be a part of it. What I see when I do get really producing again is so much of my work has always been about, you know, pouring feeling into it. And as far as the feeling that's going to be poured into my work now, if it doesn't just self-combust, it's going to be an amazing thing. But there also has to be an audience to consume that. So we'll see what happens. It's a pretty freaky time.
And Will, has this time affected your work, the work that you've been producing?
I've been thinking a lot about what to produce. Grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and it was pretty fascinating to leave there. At the same time, you know, I grew up at the spot. There's a Monument Avenue straight down central Richmond, kind of the richest neighborhood in town that had all of these Confederate monuments, these pristine monuments that go all the way down the city. And I was leaving town just as they were, just as there were so many protests, and it was pretty amazing to see, just to walk down Monument for one of the last times before I leave, to see the monuments that I grew up just seeing all clean, just completely covered in graffiti and spray painted. And then as I left the next week, they started taking them down, which was, I never thought I'd see it. So it's been interesting to go from like Richmond, Virginia, where you have all of these protests, to ground zero for the Floyd protests of going through Minnesota, which is right down the road or Minneapolis, right down the road from where I'm living right now. And then moving all the way out into the Southwest, which is where I'm going to be in the fall. But I'm just kind of soaking it in. And I think like right now my work is, I move pretty slow as far as changing my work, but I've been working on kind of where I fit within it. And it's kind of my opportunity to shut up and listen and soak it all in. So I'm sure it will change more, but I've been kind of telling my story, how I relate to music, how I relate to the West, how I relate to moving in the different places that I'm planning on going. But I've got a couple of ideas kicking around in my head of how I'd respond to, you know, my old city, and how I'd respond to the change in landscape of it. And there's a gorgeous Kehinde Wiley sculpture in front of the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts that they had just bought in his response to the monuments going down Monument Avenue. And it was an intersection of those. And to see all of these Confederate monuments like covered with this, paint, and it's become a memorial to something else. And then to walk around the corner, it was a couple mile walk to go and then go around the corner to spend some time with that Kehinde Wiley, and to see how clean it was and how new and how fresh and how like it hadn't been touched with anything. And right next to it, there's a building that's been gutted by fire. It was an old, they called them the Daughters of the Confederacy, which that's who put up this building, but the Daughters of the Confederacy is just a sanitized way to let an incredibly racist group put up a building and not call it the KKK. I mean, it's just an incredible history through Richmond, but to see the balance of what's happening in all the different cities and especially where I lived and where I'm going too. So I'm sure it'll come out, but right now I'm just listening.
Yeah. Well, during the Art Fair weekend, the virtual St. Louis Art Fair weekend, which is taking place September 11th through the 13th, you all will have these virtual artist galleries where our customers, our buyers, can come and browse some of the work that's available. Can you guys tell us a little bit about some of the work that they will be able to see of yours that weekend on our website?
I had to shut my furnaces off. My work requires help. I can't do it entirely by myself because I don't have enough arms. So my full-time assistant quit, basically. He didn't feel comfortable coming to work anymore. He had a 3-year-old daughter and he had to protect his family. So I just decided to shut the furnaces off.
Okay.
Before that point, I'd been working really hard, making a lot of new work for the upcoming show season. And as it turns out, the last show that I did was St. Louis Art Fair in September, a year ago. So I had amassed quite a lot of work. I started working on a new website and photographing my work. But probably 2 of the more recent pieces I made before shutdown will be in the virtual art fair. And they're blue-green mosaic pieces that are really somewhat different from things I had been making. They're much more opaque. And they're quite complex in terms of pattern. But I actually started using Instagram within the last year, and those pieces were on Instagram as well. And it's actually been good for sales for me. So between that and my new website, which I hope will generate sales, I'm hoping that all takes the place of some art fairs. But yeah, that's about it, Melissa.
Well, I mean, I guess, we could only pick 15 pieces, so not only, thank you, 15 pieces up on a website with a lot of people looking at it, thank you. So yeah, I picked some things that probably people haven't seen and things that I've made this year. So a little bit of, everything, a little bit of low-priced items that I hope that people can grab if they want them or for a gift, and then some more complex pieces, and then some jury pieces even that are fantastic, that are amazing and fun to make. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes. I will say I've been in a few virtual art fairs so far this year, and what you're doing is by far, for me, in my experience, the best of what I've been able to experience so far. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. And also, I have to say, I feel like the way you're doing it is the most kind to artists, and just giving us a nice platform, giving us a lot of advertising, and not requiring us to fork over the little bit of money that we actually have in our bank accounts right now. So it's really nice. You did it perfectly. So I hope it works out.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, Melissa.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
We love and respect all of our artists, and we're just in awe of what you produce year after year after year and the relationships you form. And we were really worried that when we knew that we had to cancel the in-person fair, first thought was of you and all of you. And we wanted to make sure to have some platform for you all to get your work out there, because it is so important. Like Ella was saying, it really makes a difference, an impact in people's lives, to have your work in their homes. Whether it's a piece of jewelry that just makes them feel a little bit better, or something that they can hang on their walls and think of a different time. Think of a pretty girl they might have met in a record shop. I've been looking at that, Will, behind you. That what is it? I always fall in love at the record store.
Yeah, and that is I always fall in love with the record store. So I put a lot of my favorites, there it is over there, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But I put a lot of my favorites, trying to balance it in different kind of genres and things that I love, and everything from Ray Charles through Johnny Cash and David Bowie. And so I tried to represent everything. But you'll see that piece on in the festival. And I've also been kind of exploring kind of my different relationship with where I'm headed out west. I've lived in Richmond, Virginia, like I said, for almost 50 years. So moving out west for the first time. And 50, yeah, I turned 50 this year.
You look good.
Did you say 50?
What?
50?
Yep.
Like
I came about that gray honest.
Ella, how many more times do you want to point out he's 50? 50.
We get it now, yeah.
Yeah, you can tag me in.
35, 36.
You can tag me in. I'll throw a couple shots in there too.
Take your hits. So yeah, it's interesting. I've been exploring some different things, so it'll be fun to show off the work for sure.
Oh, that's really exciting. And I know that Jay, I was listening to you talk about the human condition a little bit when you were speaking, and kind of bringing it back to our natural elements and how people behave. But I know that your work really respects the natural world and the work that you produce. You have such a respect and really showcase the natural beauty of your material. And I hope that people, I hope that people are able to capture that when they view your pieces.
Well, and I hope they will too. Because it is a celebration of where we live. I mean, it's very respectful of the environment I live in anyway. And so many of the pieces I make are what is even more rewarding for me is, I'm not going and buying exotic woods from a lumber store somewhere. I'm going out and sourcing the trees that I grew up with, that I've climbed, that I've built forts in. And they might not be the most respected trees as far as furniture and wood turners and everything else, the cottonwoods, box elders, things like that, but they're so very real, and they're so very close to me, and they're so very much a part of who I am. And I just can't help but let that come out in the pieces. And that's the echo I get back from people anyway. And there again, that's what makes it a very tangible, very tactile thing, which is one of my bigger challenges. But having said that, I think the pieces that I have put in the show are real representative of the work, and particularly if you've seen it before, there's going to be a great connection there. And I'm really anxious to see how it goes. I mean, we're in uncharted territory, that's for sure.
I know, Ella, you were kind of talking a little bit about your scissor drawings, and how it, sometimes it doesn't come across to buyers. I almost worry that when they look at a computer screen, it might be even a little bit more difficult to really understand what you do. Some of my favorite pictures are of when you hold up your your work before you actually lay it down. It's so beautiful to see all of that and how delicate it is. So
people, when look at the screen, they don't really know whether the prints or like they're just drawings, and I'm kind of used to it right now. But actually, I just want to tell like a couple of things about my pieces, which we're gonna be all like during the no action. So I decided to go back to school during this time because I don't have anything else to do. And I met a professor who is like 92 years old, and she decided to teach me. She decided to give me classes, and but she refused to take the payment from me because she felt she's a very wealthy person because she has a huge knowledge. I mean, she's a very talented. She has been teaching for years and years and years, but nobody is interested in her work anymore. And so she would refuse to take any payments from me because her idea was I'm already making her pay by accepting her knowledge and accepting her experience and listening to her. So two of the pieces which I actually going to be on auction, I created while I have been studying with her. And I think it's amazing to me that somebody who is so, I think she's so excited to share her experience, her knowledge, her skills with somebody she has never met. She doesn't know me. We don't know each other personally because I take classes online. And she really, I've been taking classes with her every single day for the last 4 months. And she really pushed me back to my childhood memories because we talked about it a lot. And we feel like we talked about how children are born, they're born pure, right? And they're born very like, I mean, they don't know anything about the world. And how like when we grow up, like the childhood experiences and ideas, they slowly kind of disappear. So she pushed me back to memories which I didn't know even existed in my head. Like, for example, my father died when I was 7 years old. I don't remember him. When I migrated to this country, I wasn't allowed to take any photographs with us. So the only memories I have of him, like maybe his voice or like, or what kind of feelings I experienced with him. So she pushed me hard and she asked me to create a piece, how I remember my father, not through his appearance, but through my memories. And I think it was like a really challenging but amazing experience for me, like to go back and to see what I remember about my childhood and about my father. So I'm really fortunate that I was able to meet this woman who the only thing she wants to do, she only wants to share her knowledge. And I think I'm very lucky to meet her. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So sometimes
was
I get lost in my thoughts and sometimes I get lost in my feelings. I'm getting emotional right now because first, like I see all of you and I'm talking about my personal experiences. As I think it's such a wonderful to see your faces, to hear your voices. That my feelings are mixed up right now. I'm messed up right now. I don't even remember English anymore, and I don't remember any other languages I speak. So sorry.
Gosh, the work that you're doing to have to kind of tap into your memories, I'm sure that must be bringing so many emotions with that as well. So no, completely understand.
But I think we all do that. Like
Yeah.
Will with his paintings and Jay, your wood is excellent. I mean, and Clifton, your doors. I think that what is a door? Do you open the door or you keep the door closed? Do you go through this door or you're too afraid to step over? So I think doors is such a big part of our lives because you can stay on one side or you go to the other side.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. So hopefully, Clifton, we're going to see some of your doors at the virtual St. Louis Art Fair.
That was good, Ella.
Right, absolutely. I'll be featuring a couple of the new doors as well. So that'll be the first time anybody sees that new work as well, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, that's really exciting. We can't wait. But something that I was hoping to hear from you guys that Ella just touched on a little bit. If you hadn't noticed, the six of you that I asked to participate today, you all create such different work. You all work in mediums that are different from one another. So I was wondering, but you all do know each other. So is there something about each other's work that you see that impresses you, or that maybe you have a question for one of your colleagues about some of the work that they produce. I just would love to hear your thoughts. Ella just started talking and describing some of the work of Will and Jay and Cliff, and I just wanted to hear from you guys how you perceive your colleagues' work, but of course not. I'm sure you don't want to be critical, but I'd love to hear technically how you find some of their work.
What I really find interesting, Ella, and it when you're talking about the piece that's representing your father and what goes into it from your end and what you pour into your work, that's one thing. But what I find interesting oftentimes with my pieces is they make me feel something, or they throw me back to some really strong memories or feelings, and a customer can be attracted to it for something just as powerful, but it's totally unrelated to what I was doing, and that's okay. I mean, I think any work, and all of the people here represented here, I can say this, for me, any piece of work that I see as a quality piece of art should make me feel something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be what the artist intended, but it should make one feel something. And all of the work here does make me feel, and it usually, with me, it's not a cathartic feeling. I mean, with everyone represented here, it's a really great, comforting, or, with Will's work, there's the story, and the more I look, the more stories I can see, or the more stories I can make up, or the colors in the glass. Cliff's images, their stories, they're worn right on the sleeve, and the doors are a little more imaginative. You have to make up your own story a little bit. But some of your older work in particular, just very powerful images. And so I think that's interesting to see my work through the eyes of whomever is collecting it or admiring it, and have them explain to me what they're seeing and what they're feeling. I get a lot of joy out of that.
Jay, one of your pieces you were posting on Instagram when you were first working on it, you were talking about maybe scrapping it because there was an imperfection in the wood, and to see the kind of or to hear your story just through that of how you were working around it, and ended up being, I mean, it was a smaller piece if I'm not mistaken, but just to see you work through that and work around that and see that flaw become part of the piece, that just had a lot of soul to it. I really enjoyed seeing that.
It's interesting because that was a story I was telling through Instagram, and there was a little more circuitous journey getting to the final form in that than some of the others, and is often the case. That was the first piece that sold at the next show I did.
Very cool. With Cliff, I'll say something about your work too. I mean, to see through your eyes, especially your Cuba series that you did a couple of years ago, and I think you added to that last year as well, but just to see someone try to capture a little bit of Cuba that is not that cliched image of the 1950s taxi, that's the more personal story, kind of the heart of Havana, and just through the eyes of some of the kids that you shot too, really effective.
It's been so terrific to hear from everybody today, and really let our audience get to know you a little bit better and on a little more personal note, because I know so many of our St. Louis Art Fair customers, the buyers, that's what they're going to miss this year. They're going to miss seeing you in your booths and listening to your stories about your work. But hopefully this will help to enlighten them, help to bring some of that the personal stories to them through this roundtable. And I just want to thank everybody so much for participating today. Before we close, I wanted to make sure to ask if there's any final thoughts, if there's anything that anyone would like to share before we wrap up.
Are we going to be headed back to art shows as we used to know them, or do you have some ideas as how we might reinvent this and reemerge?
Well, we were speaking about this a little bit before we started, and my father, he lives in Hawaii, and he keeps sending me pictures of like art fairs that they're having in Hawaii outside right now, and he's like, you can do this. This could happen. Why can't this happen? It's outside. I mean, we understand, we discussed why it can't happen now. But, you know, I feel like if everybody wears masks, I don't know why we can't do an outdoor event soon. You know, I don't know why. They're doing almost everything else. I can see it happening myself. That's my personal perspective, but I happen to be an optimist, so.
Before COVID happened, we were all, and not all of us, but a number of artists were talking about exactly what you just mentioned. Is there another way to do this? Because some of these artists like myself who've been doing shows for close to 30 years, 25 years, whatever it is, have seen better days of shows. I think back in, certainly in the 80s and at a certain point in the 90s, shows were really, really active and vibrant. St. Louis Art Fair was incredible for a while, where, I mean, the crowds were just insane and people were buying like there was no tomorrow. And then there have been changes in the economy and changes in, I think, younger people aren't buying art in the way that younger people were. It's a cultural shift. I think younger people tend to buy iPhones more and need to have money to just exist and to pay rent. So I think all of us are going to have to reinvent to a certain extent and supplement the art fairs with other things. And personally, I've been developing a different line of business. Got a small machine shop, so I've been making tools for glass blowers and various other things in metal. But I think that will probably end up being a part of my yearly income in the future, even if all the art fairs start to happen again. And I think that hopefully all of us will have developed some way of supplementing that's not just the art fair. But I sure hope it does get back to where we can do shows again, though.
I know we
Personally,
hope so.
I feel like, I'm sorry. But personally, I feel like I have to redesign. I redesigned my booth anyway to make it flow. I don't feel like people like, just with two-dimensional work, ever getting the feeling that they're trapped inside. Yeah. So I feel like the shows themselves are going to have to give us more room to expand a little bit. The 10 by 10 probably be over. You know, I feel like you need those doors on the sides. If I have somebody looking at a piece, they need to be able to walk out the side and walk around. Nobody, especially right now, wants to feel cornered in an art show or in a 10 by 10. So I feel like the festivals can exist. I feel like being outside, like Melissa just said, it's key. It gives us a real opportunity to feed what people are interested in, which is a personal connection, something more personal after they've been shut into their homes for so long, and then also to go outside in their community and to experience things outside. So I think arts festivals can come back. I think they might look a little different when they do. But it's going to take a promoter working with the city that allows them to do what they, I think, I am just speculating, but I have a pretty good idea that Stephen King with Des Moines, he was raring to show people how to do it. And I know St. Louis was too. And then the city shut them down. Yeah. I don't know how it works behind the scenes, but I know that you guys that run the shows have ideas on how to do this. That's not just 10 by 10 shoehorned into a 10 by 10. Give us a little bit more room, separate things out, give it room to walk around the booth and explore it from all different sides. And unfortunately, that might mean the smaller footprint for the shows. It might mean less artists, or it might mean a larger footprint and much, different the way it looks. So I don't know how it's going to look, but it's got to look different. And but I know my particular booth, I know that I can show on all four sides, and I think that might be what it takes.
I know that is something that we are all discussing in the art fair world, is what it's going to look like moving forward. We definitely hope to be back in person in 2021 in one capacity or another, as Will was just discussing, some changes that might have to come. But in the meantime, we're just happy to bridge that gap a little bit with the virtual show, and are looking forward to seeing all of your work at the virtual show at our website. So we can't wait for that. Thank you all so much for participating in our first ever Roundtable at our first ever virtual St. Louis Art Fair.